I walk slowly. The sound of my steps is the only noise breaking the air. It echoes against roofless walls, slides across broken columns, and disappears into empty streets. The stones beneath my feet are more than 2,000 years old. They are polished by the steps of thousands of people. They are not just stones, they are streets. Streets that saw carts loaded with goods, sandals worn by dust, merchants shouting their offers, children running from one shop to another. Streets that absorbed rain, sunlight, blood, and wine spilled during celebrations. Today they are empty, still. Hi, I'm Mike, and I'm walking inside Pompeii, a city that did not slowly fall apart with time. It was not destroyed by war or forgotten for centuries. It was frozen, stopped in one exact day. I raise my eyes. Mount Vesuvius dominates the horizon. It is green, silent, almost calming. A mountain that looks like it has always been there. But 2,000 years ago, it was different. And while I walk through these ruins, I try to do something difficult. I try not to see what is left. I try to see what once existed. I try to hear the noise beneath this silence. I imagine the sunrise. Golden light enters between the columns of the houses. Shadows stretch across the basalt streets. The shops begin to open. The sound of wooden doors lifting. The smell of fresh bread mixing with oil and wine. It is estimated that between 11,000 and 15,000 people lived here. Enough to understand this was not a village. It was a living, active city. Connected to the trade routes of the Mediterranean, with Greek, Samnite, and Roman influence. I stop in front of a bakery. Archaeologists found carbonized loaves of bread still whole, marked by a string that divided them into 8 pieces. The last batch, the last everyday action. I can almost feel the heat of the oven, the steady work. flour-covered hands kneading dough without knowing time was about to end. I walked toward the baths. They were not only places to wash, they were social centers. Politics was discussed here. Business deals were made. Reputations were built. Hot steam, smooth marble. Running water flowing through clever underground systems. For its time, it was impressive comfort. On the walls, I still read inscriptions. Vote for, I love you. Insults, political advertisements. They are not official records. They are voices. Spontaneous traces of ordinary people. Pompeii was loud. Slaves carrying goods, merchants negotiating prices, wealthy families hosting banquets, craftsmen working metal and fabric.
Además, nosotros estamos ahí en Argentina.
The richest houses had inner gardens, fountains, and refined frescoes. Pompeian red. Mythological scenes, painted illusions that made spaces look larger. But not everyone lived that way. There were small houses too, narrow rooms, simple beds, quiet lives. I enter the brothel, a small building, narrow corridors, explicit frescoes above each door, almost like a visual menu. A direct place, without hypocrisy. Pompeii was not idealized. It was real, with its wealth and its contradictions. And above everything, always present, the volcano. In 62 AD, about 17 years before the final eruption, a strong earthquake hit the city. It was devastating. Temples collapsed. Houses were damaged. Public buildings were destroyed. Statues were broken. The ground shook for a long time. Many thought it was the end. And yet, the city remained. When I walk here today, I know some buildings were still being repaired in 79 AD. Scaffolding, rebuilt walls, unfinished frescoes. The city was rebuilding. Life continued. Maybe they believed it was just an isolated event. At that time, Vesuvius was not considered an active volcano. It was a fertile mountain. Fields were cultivated. Vineyards were productive. The soil was rich because of ancient ash. No one imagined. Or maybe someone did. But daily life is stronger than fear. August 24th, 79 AD. The traditional date, although some studies suggest October. It is morning. The sky is clear. Then, an explosion. A roar that tears through the air. A column of ash rises into the sky, estimated between 20 and 30 kilometers high. Pliny the Younger described it like a pine tree, a vertical trunk that spreads at the top. I imagine people stopping in the streets, looking up, asking what is happening. At first, light ash falls, almost harmless. Hours pass. The ash becomes heavier. Pumice stones fall. Roofs begin to collapse under the weight. The light fades. By midday, it is dark. An unnatural darkness. The sun cannot be seen. The sea disappears. Panic spreads. Some try to escape toward the harbor. Others hide inside their homes. Some remain frozen. About 18 hours pass. Then, the pyroclastic flows arrive, burning clouds of gas, ash, and volcanic fragments. Temperatures between 300 and 500 degrees Celsius, moving with devastating speed. You cannot run fast enough. You cannot breathe. You cannot survive. It is not lava that destroys the city. It is the air itself turning deadly. In less than 24 hours, Pompeii is buried under up to 6 meters of volcanic material. The noise ends. The darkness remains. And time stops. I approach the casts. I cannot look at them without feeling something inside. A man with his hands over his face. A body curled on the ground. A dog twisted in tension. A child next to an adult. They are not symbols. They are human beings stopped in their final moment. In the 19th century, archaeologists poured plaster into the empty spaces left by decomposed bodies inside the hardened ash. What we see is the exact shape of their last second. A breath interrupted. A movement unfinished. An attempt to protect themselves. Time did not erase them. It preserved them. And looking at them, it is impossible not to think how normal that day had been, just moments before. I keep walking. The streets are intact. Stone crossing blocks are still in place. Sewage system, running water, public fountains. It was a modern city for its time. The amphitheater is still here. Built around 80 BC, it could hold thousands of spectators. I imagine the crowd's noise, the shouting, the dust rising under sandals. Today there is silence, but the silence speaks. I am not only looking at ruins, I am looking at interrupted lives. Pompeii is a photograph, not beautified, not edited. A photograph of the exact moment everything changed. Excavations began in the 18th century. At first, they were occasional searches. Later, they became systematic. Even today, a large part of the city remains underground. Every year, new discoveries appear. Intact frescoes, sealed rooms, everyday objects, rings, tools, amulets. Modern technology, scanners, DNA analysis, digital reconstructions. Pompeii is not a finished site. It is an ongoing story. Beneath these meters of earth, the city is still sleeping. And it may still hold stories we do not know. I look again at Vesuvius. It is calm, silent. But we know it is not extinct. Pompeii teaches us that normal life is fragile, that an ordinary day can become the last. But it also teaches something deeper, that memory can survive destruction, that time can stop, but not erase everything. As long as we walk here, as long as we observe, as long as we imagine. Pompeii is not dead. It is suspended. And we are only guests of time. This story does not truly end here. It simply pauses, like a breath between two journeys. What we have seen is only one chapter of a much longer path. And in the next journey, in the next adventure, we will walk forward again.